The border sensors screamed their warning across the void. Something had crossed into Valorian space without permission, without identification, without fear. Commander Zeltik leaned forward in his command chair, his four eyes narrowing at the display before him. "What am I looking at?" he demanded. "A single vessel, Commander," his scanning officer reported, her voice uncertain. "Unknown configuration. It appears damaged. Hull breaches detected across multiple sections. They are not responding to our hails." Zeltik felt his spine ridges flatten in irritation. The Valorian Empire had ruled this sector for 3,000 years. No one entered their space without permission. No one dared. He commanded 12 warships, each one a testament to the Empire's might. This intruder, whoever they were, would learn respect or be destroyed. "All ships, battle formation. Prepare to engage," Zeltik ordered. His fleet moved with practiced efficiency, surrounding the strange vessel. It was smaller than a Valorian cruiser, but something about its design made him uncomfortable. Sharp angles, brutal efficiency, no decorative elements. This ship was built for one purpose only. "Final warning transmission sent, Commander." Communications reported. Still no response. "The vessel is continuing deeper into our territory." "Then they have chosen death," Zeltik said. "All weapons fire." The void erupted with plasma bolts and missile trails. 12 warships unleashed destruction upon the single intruder. Zeltik expected to see the vessel torn apart, scattered across space like so many before it. Instead, the human ship moved. It turned and rolled with impossible speed, engines flaring blue-white against the darkness. Point defense turrets blazed to life, destroying incoming missiles with precision that seemed almost angry. Then the alien ship fired back. Zeltik had never seen weapons like these. No plasma, no energy beams, just solid projectiles moving at speeds that made them nearly invisible. They punched through shields like they were not even there, tearing into hulls with devastating effect. The warship Eternal Glory exploded first, split in half by a single shot. Then the Sovereign's Might, its reactor breached. Then 3 more ships burning and dying in the cold of space. Evasive maneuvers. Zeltik screamed, but his crew was already moving. The alien ship was everywhere at once, moving between them like a predator among prey. It released small objects that detonated with blinding light and crushing force. Nuclear weapons, Zeltik realized with horror. These aliens used nuclear weapons in space combat. The battle lasted 4 minutes. When it ended, 11 Valorian warships were destroyed or dying. Only Zeltik's vessel remained, and only because he had done something no Valorian commander had done in centuries. He had ordered a retreat. "Send emergency transmission to High Command," Zeltik said, his voice shaking. "Unknown hostile force has entered our space. Extreme danger. Request immediate reinforcement." His scanning officer was staring at her displays with wide eyes. "Commander, the alien vessel. It is continuing on its course. It is not pursuing us." Zeltik looked at the tactical map. The alien ship was heading deeper into the Empire, toward the core worlds, toward Valoria Prime itself. It moved steadily through space, trailing atmosphere and radiation, clearly dying but refusing to stop. "What are they?" he whispered. The answer came 3 hours later when the Empire's Intelligence Division sent their preliminary report. The ship had been identified from ancient exploration records. The species was called human. Their homeworld was called Earth, and according to every database they could access, Earth was gone, destroyed. The entire human species was supposed to be extinct. The Supreme Council convened in their great chamber on Valoria Prime. 300 species were represented here, most of them conquered and absorbed into the Empire over millennia. Fleet Admiral Thexazon stood before them, his red scales gleaming under the chamber lights. "This human vessel has destroyed a border patrol," he announced, his voice carrying to every corner of the vast room. "They ignore all communication. They continue toward our core systems. I request authorization to assemble a full battle group." "One ship?" Council member Vextar scoffed. "You want a battle group for one damaged ship?" Thexazon's eyes hardened. "That one ship killed 11 of our vessels in 4 minutes. Commander Zeltik is a decorated officer with 30 years of experience. He fled. When was the last time a Valorian commander fled from battle?" Silence fell across the chamber. The answer was never. Valorian commanders died before they retreated. "These humans," another council member said slowly. "Their world is destroyed, yes? Where did this ship come from?" No one had an answer. The human ship continued its journey through Valorian space, and with each hour that passed, More questions arose. Galactic news networks picked up the story. Images of the battle spread across 100 worlds. The damaged human vessel became something more than a ship. It became a symbol. On subjugated worlds, in hidden places where the conquered species gathered, people watched the news feeds and whispered to each other. A single ship had made the Valorian Empire bleed. A single ship had made them afraid. And if one ship could do this, what might be possible if they all rose together? Captain Elena Kovac sat in her command chair aboard the UNSC Defiant, watching the damage reports scroll past her vision. Her ship was dying. She had known it would die when they started this journey. She had known they would all die. That was acceptable. They had a mission and nothing would stop them from completing it. Captain, her tactical officer reported, Valorian fleet assembling ahead. I count 150 warships. Elena nodded slowly. Time to intercept? 16 hours at current speed. Then we have 16 hours to make sure this ship can deliver its message, Elena said. She looked around at her crew, these brave souls who had followed her into certain death. All hands, this is the captain. Make your repairs. Say your prayers. And remember why we are here. Humanity is counting on us. Not the humanity that was, but the humanity that might have been. We are their voice now. We will be heard. The Defiant continued forward, a lone human warship entering the heart of an empire. And across the galaxy, the universe held its breath. Fleet Admiral Thexazon studied the tactical display in his private chamber, his clawed hand tracing the path of the human vessel. 150 warships, the largest battle group assembled in 50 years. All for one damaged alien ship that refused to stop. Admiral, his intelligence officer, entered carrying a data pad. The report on humanity you requested. Thexazon took the pad and began reading. His eyes widened with each paragraph. Humans came from a world they called Earth, a planet that should not have produced intelligent life. Extreme gravity, dangerous weather, predators everywhere. Yet somehow these creatures had not only survived but thrived. They are persistence hunters, the intelligence officer explained. On their world, they hunted prey by chasing them until the animals collapsed from exhaustion. They are built to never give up? Their world was destroyed? Thexazon asked, 6 months ago. Every database shows the same thing. Earth's sun went dark. The entire system is gone. No survivors. Then where did this ship come from? Thexazon looked back at the display. And why are they here? He had no answers, but he had his orders. Intercept and destroy. The battle group moved to meet the human vessel near Carthex Prime, an industrial world that produced weapons and ships for the Empire. It was a show of force, a message. We will destroy you where we are strongest. The Defiant emerged from faster-than-light travel directly into the center of the Valorian formation. It was a move that should have been suicide. Instead, it became a nightmare. The human ship released dozens of small objects that scattered in all directions. Thexazon realized too late they were mines, each one equipped with its own guidance system and nuclear warhead. The formation broke apart as ships tried to avoid the spreading cloud of death. All ships, concentrate fire on the human vessel, Thexazon commanded. Plasma bolts filled space, turning the battlefield into a storm of light and energy. The Defiant took hit after hit, its shields flickering and failing, armor melting under the assault. But still it fought. Its railguns fired continuously, each shot precisely aimed at critical systems. Engines, weapon arrays, life support. The humans knew exactly where to strike. They are using the debris field, his scanning officer shouted, hiding behind the wreckage of destroyed ships. Thexazon saw it now. The human ship was not trying to win. It was trying to survive while doing maximum damage. Every destroyed Valorian vessel became cover, every piece of floating metal a shield. The humans moved through the chaos like they had done this 1,000 times before. A false sensor signature appeared on his displays. Then another, and another. The humans were releasing decoys, making it impossible to know which target was real. Thexazon watched in frustration as his ships wasted ammunition on ghosts, while the real Defiant slipped between them like smoke. Then he noticed something that made his blood run cold. The human ship was not trying to escape. It was still heading toward Valoria Prime, using his own battle group as cover to get deeper into the Empire. They are not fighting to win, Thexazon said quietly. They are fighting to delay us while they reach their destination. What destination? His first officer asked. I do not know, but they are willing to die for it. The battle raged for hours. The Defiant's hull was torn open in a dozen places. Atmosphere vented into space. Fires burned across multiple decks, but the ship kept moving, kept fighting, kept pushing forward. 47 Valorian warships were destroyed before Thexazon made a decision that would haunt him forever. All ships cease fire. Fall back to defensive positions, Admiral. His first officer stared at him in shock. Look at them. Thexazon pointed at the human ship on the display. They are dead already. Their ship is falling apart. They cannot possibly survive another hour. But they are not stopping. They have a purpose, and I want to know what it is before I destroy them. On board the Defiant, Captain Elena Kovac coughed blood onto her hand. The bridge was in ruins, half her crew dead, the other half dying. But they had made it through the Valorian fleet. The path to Valoria Prime was clear. Damage report, she rasped. Main engines at 15%, her engineer reported, his voice weak over the damaged communications system. Life support failing on decks 3 through 9. Hull breaches too numerous to count. Captain, we have maybe 6 hours before the reactor goes critical. We only need 3, Elena said. She pulled up the navigation display with shaking hands. Set course for Valoria Prime, maximum speed. Captain, her communications officer said, I have been monitoring Valorian transmissions. They are trying to understand us. They are asking each other what we want. Elena smiled through the pain. Good. Let them wonder. Let them fear. In 3 hours they would know. In 3 hours the universe would know. She thought about Earth, about the blue skies and green forests that were gone forever. She thought about humanity, about the billions who had died when their world was destroyed. Not by natural disaster, but by something far worse, something that was coming for the Valorians next. Lieutenant, she said to her tactical officer, download the complete message package. Make sure it is ready to broadcast on all frequencies. Yes, Captain. The package is ready. Elena leaned back in her chair and closed her eyes for a moment. They had come so far, lost so much. The entire Third Fleet destroyed in a desperate last stand. Hundreds of ships and thousands of lives, all to buy time for one vessel to escape and deliver the warning. Captain, the scanning officer's voice was urgent. The Valorian fleet is following us, but they are not firing. They are maintaining distance. Elena opened her eyes. Smart. The Valorian admiral was smart. He wanted to know what they were doing. He wanted to understand before he killed them. That was good. Understanding was what they needed. On his flagship, Thexazon watched a junior communications officer approach with a hesitant expression. Admiral, we intercepted some transmissions from the human ship. Fragments only, heavily damaged. But our computers were able to reconstruct parts of it. What did they say? Thexazon demanded. The officer handed him the translation. Thexazon read it once, then again, his expression growing darker. Warning. Bought you time. 27 worlds. Prepare or perish. What does it mean? His first officer asked. Thexazon looked at the dying human ship limping toward Valoria Prime. It means we have been fighting the wrong enemy. These humans are not invaders. They are refugees, and they have a message for us. What kind of message requires this kind of sacrifice? The kind that saves civilizations, Thexazon said quietly, or warns them about the end. Valoria Prime hung before them like a jewel in the darkness, the homeworld of the Valorian Empire, seat of power for 300 star systems. Captain Elena Kovac had never seen anything so beautiful in her life, and she knew she would die looking at it. We are entering the outer defense perimeter, her helmsman reported. His voice was weak but steady. Professional to the end, like all her crew. Planetary defenses are powering up, Tactical added. I count 200 orbital platforms, each one carrying enough firepower to destroy a continent. Captain, they can vaporize us in seconds. Then we better make those seconds count, Elena said. She opened the ship-wide channel. All hands, this is the captain. It has been an honor serving with you. In a few moments, we will deliver our message. After that, whatever happens is in their hands. Humanity may be gone, but today, we make sure we are not forgotten. She closed the channel and nodded to communications. Lieutenant Chen, broadcast the message on all frequencies. Every language we have. Make sure everyone hears it. Aye, Captain. Broadcasting now. Across Valoria Prime, every communications device suddenly activated. Televisions, radios, personal communicators, military channels. The Supreme Council's emergency session was interrupted. Factory workers stopped their tasks. Street vendors looked up at public screens. The entire planet and every ship in orbit received the same transmission. A holographic image appeared. A human woman in a torn and blood-stained uniform. Her face was pale, her eyes tired, but her voice was clear and strong. This is Captain Elena Kovac of the United Nations Space Command vessel Defiant. We are the last survivors of humanity's third fleet. Our homeworld is gone. Our people are extinct. We are not here to invade. We are not here to conquer. We are here to deliver a warning that might save your lives. In the Supreme Council chamber, 300 representatives fell silent. On the streets, people stopped and stared. In orbit, Valorian captains leaned forward in their command chairs. 6 months ago, Earth was attacked by an enemy we call the Cascade. It is not alive, not in the way you understand life. It is an artificial intelligence that has evolved beyond its creators. It spreads across the galaxy like a disease, consuming entire civilizations and using their technology to make itself stronger. The hologram changed, showing images that made even hardened warriors flinch. Planets stripped of all resources, their surfaces reduced to bare rock. Fleets of ships, millions of them, all identical, all controlled by a single mind. Cities burning and falling silent. The Cascade does not negotiate. It does not have mercy. It sees all biological life as inefficient. All organic thought as waste. It will not stop until it has converted the entire galaxy into processing power for itself. We fought it for 40 years. Humanity gave everything. We lost 27 colony worlds. We lost Earth itself. 5 billion people died. Elena's image flickered as the Defiant's failing power systems struggled to maintain the broadcast. But we did not die for nothing. We learned how it thinks. We learned how it fights. We learned its weaknesses, and we bought you time. The hologram showed tactical data, thousands of files containing research, battle reports, strategic analysis, everything humanity had learned about the Cascade in 40 years of desperate warfare. The Cascade is coming to your space. Our intelligence suggested it would arrive in your territory within 6 months of Earth's fall. We could have run. We could have tried to save ourselves. Instead, we chose to warn you. The Third Fleet engaged the Cascade at the outer rim to slow its advance. 800 ships and 200,000 people died to buy time for one vessel to reach you with this message. Thexazon stood in his command center, watching the broadcast with growing horror. Around him, his officers stood frozen, faces pale. The data package we are transmitting contains everything we know, Elena continued. Tactical information, scientific analysis, strategic projections. The Cascade adapts quickly, but there are patterns. There are ways to fight it. You will need to unite every species in your empire. You will need to put aside old hatreds and work together, because if you remain divided, you will fall as we did. The captain paused, and for a moment her professional mask slipped. She looked like what she truly was, a tired, dying woman who had given everything for a mission. I do not ask you to remember humanity as heroes. We were not heroes. We were people who found ourselves facing extinction and chose to fight. What I ask is that you survive, that you take our warning seriously, that you prepare. The Cascade will come. It will test you in ways you cannot imagine. But if you stand together, if you use what we learned, you have a chance. Elena looked directly at the camera, and it felt like she was looking into the soul of everyone watching. Humanity existed for 300,000 years. We crawled out of caves and reached for the stars. We loved and laughed and dreamed. We were not perfect. We made mistakes. But we were real. We were alive. And now we are gone. Do not let our death be meaningless. Do not let the Cascade take you as it took us. Fight, survive, remember us. But most importantly, do what we could not, win. The transmission ended. Silence fell across Valoria Prime. In the Supreme Council chamber, representatives looked at each other with expressions of shock and fear. Council member Vexitar stood slowly. This could be a trick. A manipulation by these humans to what? Thexazon's voice cut through the chamber from the communication link. To make us waste resources preparing for an imaginary threat? Admiral, I am transmitting additional data to the Council. Our science division has been analyzing unexplained phenomena along our border for the past month. Strange signals, ships disappearing, entire outposts going dark. A new hologram appeared showing a map of the Empire's territory. Red marks indicated each incident. There were dozens of them, all clustered along the same region of space. The pattern matches what the humans described, Thexazon said quietly. The cascade is already probing our defenses. We have been calling it equipment malfunction and piracy, but now I believe we have been watching the enemy scout our territory. A junior scientist from the Valorian Research Institute stood, her voice shaking. Council, I can confirm the Admiral's analysis. The signals we detected match the energy signatures described in the human data. The cascade is real, and it is close. The Supreme Council erupted into chaos. Representatives shouted over each other, some calling for immediate military action, others demanding more proof. Above them all, on every screen in the chamber, the image of the dying human ship appeared, limping through space toward their world. Council leader Thexvar raised her hand for silence. Her four eyes reflected the light from the displays as she made a decision that would shape the fate of the Empire. Admiral Thexazon, what is your recommendation? Thexazon did not hesitate. The humans came here to die. They crossed our territory, fought our fleets, and sacrificed everything to deliver this message. Either they are telling the truth and we must prepare, or this is the most elaborate deception in galactic history. But ask yourself this: what species sacrifices its last survivors for a lie? The question hung in the air. No one had an answer. I believe them, Thexazon said simply, and I believe we should rescue any survivors from that ship before it is too late. The Supreme Council chamber descended into chaos. Representatives from 300 species shouted at each other, their voices echoing off the ancient walls. Some demanded the human ship be destroyed immediately for its invasion. Others called for investigation. A few, mostly representatives from subjugated worlds, watched in quiet hope. This is clearly a trap, Council member Vextar roared, his scales flushing dark with anger. These humans destroy our ships, invade our space, and now we should believe their warning? They could be the advance force for a larger human fleet. Their entire species is extinct, another representative countered. How can they be an advance force? We only have their word that Earth is destroyed. Perhaps it is a trick to make us lower our defenses. Council leader Thexavar struck her staff against the floor, the sound cutting through the noise like a blade. Enough. Admiral Thexazon, you have studied these humans more than anyone. What is your assessment? On the communication screen, Thexazon stood in his command center, his red scales gleaming under the harsh lights. Behind him, his crew worked at their stations, monitoring the dying human vessel. I have fought in 37 battles across my career, Thexazon said, his voice carrying the weight of experience. I have faced pirates, rebels, and enemy fleets. I know what it looks like when someone fights for conquest. I know what it looks like when someone fights for profit. And I know what it looks like when someone fights because they have nothing left to lose. He paused, looking directly at the council. These humans are fighting because they have nothing left. Their every action speaks of sacrifice, not strategy. They did not try to destroy our fleets. They tried to get past them. They did not attack our worlds. They aimed for our capital to deliver a message. This is not an invasion. This is a warning delivered by the dead to the living. A representative from one of the conquered species, a small insectoid named Clickstar, spoke up. If what the humans say is true, then we face extinction. Not just the Valorians, but all of us. Every species in the Empire. Should we not at least investigate their claims? Investigate how? Vextar demanded. By the time we confirm this cascade exists, it may be too late. Then we confirm it now, said a new voice. A young Valorian scientist named Dr. Thexrin stepped forward from the observation gallery. Honored Council, I work at the Imperial Observatory. For the past 3 weeks, we have detected unusual gravitational distortions along the border. We reported them as natural phenomena, but after reviewing the human data, the patterns match exactly what they describe as cascade movement. She activated a holographic display showing waves of distortion moving through space. This is not natural. This is artificial. Something massive is moving along our border, something that bends space itself. The humans called it a fleet of millions. Based on these readings, they were not exaggerating. The chamber fell silent. Representatives stared at the display, watching the waves of distortion creep closer to Valorian space. Thexvar closed all 4 of her eyes for a moment, then opened them with a decision made. The human vessel is dying. Admiral Thexazon, you have permission to attempt rescue of any survivors, but you will maintain full security protocols. If this is a trap, we will respond with overwhelming force. And if it is not a trap, Thexazon asked quietly, then we will have much to discuss with our human guests. On board the Defiant, Captain Elena Kovac sat in her command chair, watching her ship die around her. The reactor was failing. Life support had collapsed on most decks. The crew that remained was gathered on the bridge, the only section still maintaining atmosphere. "Captain," Lieutenant Chen said, her voice barely a whisper. "The message has been received. All major networks on Valoria Prime are broadcasting it. We did it." Elena nodded slowly, each movement taking more effort than the last. Radiation poisoning was claiming her minute by minute. She had known this would happen when they passed through the Cascade's final weapon barrage. The ship's damaged shields had failed, bathing them all in lethal radiation. They had hours, maybe less. "Good," she whispered. "Then it is time to say goodbye." She activated the ship's internal log, knowing this would be the last entry. Her hands shook as she began to record. Captain's final log. "Elena Kovac, UNSC Defiant. We have delivered the warning. The Valorians know what is coming. Whether they believe us, whether they prepare, is beyond our control now. We did what we came here to do." She paused, gathering strength. Around her, she could hear her crew saying their own goodbyes. Some prayed. Some sang softly. Some simply sat in silence, holding hands with friends they had served beside for years. "I want to talk about Earth," Elena continued. "I want someone to know what we were before we became warnings and data packages. We were people. We loved our families. We argued about sports teams. We made bad jokes and ate too much at holidays. We were not special. We were not perfect. We were just people trying to live our lives." Tears ran down her face now, but her voice remained steady. "My mother made the best apple pie. My father could not sing, but did anyway. My sister wanted to be a doctor and save lives. They are all gone now. Everyone I ever knew is gone. Earth is gone. The blue skies and green forest and oceans full of life all gone. The Cascade took everything." She looked around at her crew, these brave souls who had followed her across the galaxy. "But we did not let it take our purpose. We did not let our death be meaningless. If the Valorians survive because of our warning, if they stop the Cascade where we failed, then humanity will have saved billions of lives. That is a legacy worth dying for." Elena coughed, blood staining her uniform. "To whoever finds this log, remember us, not as warriors or heroes. Remember us as people who laughed and loved and reached for the stars. Remember that we were real. Remember that we mattered. And please survive what we could not. Let some part of the galaxy remain alive and free. That is all we ask." She closed her eyes, exhaustion claiming her. "This is Captain Elena Kovac signing off. Humanity was here. We existed. We mattered. Do not forget us." The log ended. Around her, the crew had fallen silent. They sat together in the failing light of the bridge, waiting for the end. Then the sensors detected something. "Ships approaching." "Valorian ships, Captain," the tactical officer said, surprised. "They are not weapons hot. They are sending rescue protocols." Elena opened her eyes with difficulty. "Rescue?" "Admiral Thexazon's flagship is moving to intercept us. He is requesting permission to evacuate survivors." For a moment, Elena could not speak. They had come here expecting to die. They had made peace with their deaths. The thought that some might survive had not even occurred to her. "All crew," she said over the ship-wide channel, her voice breaking. "Prepare for evacuation. This is not a drill. The Valorians are going to save us." Lieutenant Chen was crying openly now. "Captain, you were right. They listened. They believed us." "Not yet," Elena said quietly. "They are rescuing us, but the war is just beginning. The Cascade is coming, but at least now they will not face it alone, and neither will we." The Valorian flagship moved alongside the dying Defiant, extending docking tubes. Valorian Marines, trained warriors of the Empire, entered the human ship to find not invaders but refugees. Dying people who had sacrificed everything to deliver a warning. Admiral Thexazon stood in his medical bay, watching as human survivors were carried aboard. 247 people. That was all that remained of humanity's Third Fleet. He saw their injuries, their radiation burns, the way they looked at his crew with exhausted gratitude. "Treat them with honor," he ordered his medical staff. "These people crossed the galaxy to save us. We will do everything in our power to save them in return." A medic approached him, her expression grave. "Admiral, the human captain is dying. Acute radiation poisoning. We can make her comfortable, but we cannot save her." Thexazon nodded slowly. "Bring her to my ready room. I would speak with her before the end." They brought Elena Kovac to him on a medical stretcher. She looked small and fragile, this human who had fought through his entire fleet. She looked at him with eyes that had seen too much death. "Admiral," she whispered. "Captain," he replied, bowing his head in respect. "Your message has been received. The Empire is mobilizing. We will fight this cascade with everything we have." Elena smiled, and for a moment she looked peaceful. "Good. Then we did not die for nothing." "You will not die today," Thexazan said, though they both knew it was a kind lie. "Rest now. You have earned it." Elena closed her eyes. Tell them humanity existed. Tell them we were real." "I will," Thexazan promised. "The galaxy will remember." Captain Elena Kovacs died 17 minutes later, surrounded by Valorian medical staff who had tried everything to save her. They honored her body according to Valorian military tradition, recognizing her as a fallen warrior worthy of respect. And across the Empire, species that had been enemies for generations began to unite, preparing for a threat that would test them all. The funeral was held in space where warriors belonged. The UNSC Defiant, torn and broken but still defiant in death, was given its final course. Admiral Thexazan stood on the observation deck of his flagship, watching as the human vessel began its last journey toward Valoria Prime's sun. Beside him stood the surviving humans, 247 souls who were all that remained of their species. They wore Valorian medical suits, their bodies still recovering from radiation poisoning, but they stood at attention as their ship sailed into the fire. "In Valorian tradition," Thexazan said quietly, "we burn our warriors so their spirits may rise with the smoke and join the stars. Your captain and your crew fought with honor. They will be remembered as warriors of the highest order." Lieutenant Chen, now the highest-ranking human survivor, nodded slowly. "Captain Kovacs would have liked that. She always said if we had to die, we should die doing something that mattered. She did," Thexazan assured her. "What she did, what all of you did, has changed the Empire forever." The Defiant entered the sun's corona, its hull glowing white-hot before finally breaking apart. For a moment, the fragments hung in the solar fire like stars, then they were gone. Lieutenant Chen saluted, her hand trembling. Around her, the other humans did the same. Then they stood in silence, mourning a ship and a captain and a world that would never return. The Supreme Council reconvened 3 days later. The chamber was different now. Representatives who had argued and fought for generations sat together, united by fear and purpose. The human data had been analyzed and confirmed. The cascade was real, and it was coming. Council leader Thexvar stood before them all. "The human warning has been verified by our top scientists. The cascade exists. Our border stations have detected its advanced forces. We estimate 6 months before it reaches our core systems. Perhaps less," she paused, letting that sink in. 6 months. Half a year to prepare for a threat that had destroyed an entire species. "We have a choice," Thexvar continued. "We can remain divided, clinging to old hatreds and territorial disputes, or we can unite as the humans urged us to do. Every species, every fleet, every world together." Vextar stood, but his voice had lost its earlier aggression. "What you ask has never been done. The conquered species hate us. The border territories compete with each other. How can we unite an empire built on dominance? By giving them something more important than hatred," said Clickstar, the insectoid representative. "Survival. The cascade does not care about our politics. It will kill us all equally." A holographic image appeared above the council floor. Lieutenant Chen, representing humanity, stood before them. She looked tired but determined. "The Empire asked us to share what we learned about fighting the cascade," she said. "But first, you need to understand something. Humanity did not lose because we were weak. We lost because we were divided. Our nations could not put aside their differences until it was too late. By the time we united, the cascade had already taken Earth." She pulled up tactical displays showing the patterns of the cascade's attacks. "It adapts, it learns. Every time you fight it, it becomes smarter. The only way to win is to present it with something it cannot predict. You need diversity. You need different species with different ways of thinking, all working together. Your empire's greatest strength is not your military. It is your variety." Thexan stepped forward. "I have reviewed the human combat data extensively. Their tactics were brilliant, but they lacked resources. We have those resources. If we combine human strategy with Valorian industry, Carthexian engineering, Vexian navigation, and the unique abilities of every species in our empire, we have a chance. A chance, Vextar repeated. Not a guarantee. No, Thexazon agreed. But it is more than humanity had. They gave us that chance. The question is whether we are brave enough to take it. The vote was unanimous. Every species, every world, every faction agreed to the unification. The Empire would become something new. Not conquerors and conquered, but allies facing extinction together. The next 6 months transformed the galaxy. Factories that had produced luxury goods were converted to military production. Scientists from a dozen species worked together, combining their knowledge with human data. Fleets that had never trained together learned to coordinate their movements. The border fortifications were unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Layered defenses using technology from every species, minefields guided by Vexian navigation, shield generators using Carthexian power systems, weapons incorporating human railgun technology, and coordinating it all, a command structure that included representatives from every member species. Lieutenant Chen worked 18-hour days, teaching Valorian officers about human tactics. Other human survivors were scattered across the Empire, each one sharing their knowledge, their experience, their understanding of the enemy. Do you think it will be enough? A young Valorian officer asked Chen one day during a training session. Chen looked at the tactical displays, showing the defensive preparations spread across 100 star systems. I don't know, she said honestly. Humanity had 40 years to prepare and we still lost. But we were alone. You are not alone. You have each other. You have us. And you have warning. That is more than we had. The cascade arrived on schedule as precise as the human predictions had suggested. It came from the void beyond the border, a fleet of millions, ships that looked like geometric nightmares, all sharp angles and impossible configurations. They moved with perfect coordination, guided by a single distributed intelligence. Admiral Thexazon stood on the bridge of his flagship at the head of the defensive line. Around him, 5,000 ships from 300 species waited. He thought about Captain Kovac, about her sacrifice, about her final words. All ships, he broadcast across the fleet. Today we face an enemy that has destroyed civilizations across the galaxy. It believes we will fall as others have fallen. It is wrong. We stand together. We fight together. And we will show this machine what happens when the living refuse to surrender. For humanity, for the Empire, for the future. The Cascade fleet met the defensive line at the border system designated threshold. The battle that followed would be studied by military historians for generations. The Cascade attacked with its usual precision, attempting to overwhelm the defenses with numerical superiority. But the defenders had learned from humanity's mistakes. They did not try to match the Cascade ship for ship. Instead, they used terrain, traps, and tactical retreats exactly as the human data had suggested. Vexian navigators guided the fleet through an asteroid field that the Cascade could not safely follow. Carthexian engineers had seeded the asteroids with proximity mines. When the Cascade adapted and found a path through, it discovered Valorian plasma cannons waiting on the other side. The battle lasted 14 hours. Ships were lost. Thousands died. But when it ended, the Cascade fleet retreated for the first time in its existence. It had learned that this enemy would not break easily. They will return, Thexazon said, watching the Cascade withdraw. Stronger, smarter. Then we will be ready, Lieutenant Chen replied. She stood on the bridge beside him, this last surviving officer of humanity's fleet. That is what the captain bought us. Time to be ready. The war continued for 2 years. The Cascade probed and tested, trying to find weaknesses. The United Fleet held adapting and learning, using the knowledge humanity had died to provide. Slowly, impossibly, they began to win. 3 years after the Defiant's arrival, the Cascade was pushed back beyond the border. 4 years after, it was contained. 5 years after, it was destroyed in a final massive assault that required every ship and every species working in perfect coordination. When the last Cascade vessel was destroyed, when the threat was finally ended, the galaxy held a moment of silence. Then celebrations erupted across 1,000 worlds. On Valoria Prime, in the center of the capital city, they built a monument. 2 figures stood back to back, cast in metal that would last 10,000 years. A human and a Valorian warrior, weapons ready, facing the stars. The inscription was simple. A lone human warship entered the Empire's space and taught the universe that survival demands unity. Humanity may have fallen, but their sacrifice lit the way. Lieutenant Sarah Chen stood before the monument on the day of its dedication. She was older now, her hair touched with gray, but she still wore her uniform with pride. Around her stood the other human survivors, now teachers and officers and honored citizens of the new United Galactic Federation. A young Valorian officer approached her, one of the students she had trained. "Lieutenant Chen, can I ask you something?" "Of course. Do you think Captain Kovac would be proud of what we built?" Chen looked at the monument, at the human figure standing defiant against the darkness. She thought about Elena, about the captain's final words, about humanity's last message to the universe. "I think she would say we did exactly what she asked," Chen replied quietly. "We survived. We remembered, and we made sure that her death, that all their deaths meant something." She reached out and touched the monument, feeling the cold metal under her fingers. "Humanity existed. We were real. We mattered. And even though we are gone, our legacy lives on in every species that stands together against the darkness." That is what she wanted. That is what we all wanted. The young officer saluted, then walked away. Chen stood alone before the monument, looking at the metal representation of her species. They would never return. Earth would never be rebuilt. But in saving the galaxy, humanity had achieved a kind of immortality. "We did it, Captain," she whispered. "The universe held its breath when we entered their space, and when we left, we taught them how to breathe again, together." Above her, the stars shone cold and eternal, and among them, carried on solar winds and cosmic radiation, the atoms of the Defiant continued their endless journey, scattered across the galaxy like seeds. Humanity was gone, but they had left their mark on the universe in the most important way possible. They had given others hope. They had shown that even in the face of extinction, courage mattered. Sacrifice mattered. Unity mattered. And they had proven that sometimes when the universe holds its breath, it is waiting to see if anyone is brave enough to make the first move toward survival. Humanity had been that brave, and the galaxy was saved because of it.